Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle on a breaking news night. Tonight, America is seeing the ultimate in election interference as 4 unelected state judges, all appointed by Democrat governors, have ruled that Donald Trump must be kept off next year's presidential ballot. The Colorado Supreme Court, in a 4-3 decision, wrote that we conclude that because President Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, it would be a wrongful act under the Election Code for the Secretary to list Trump as a candidate on the presidential primary ballot. Therefore, the Secretary may not list President Trump's name on the 2024 presidential primary ballot, nor may she count any write-in votes cast for him. Now, the suit focused on that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment that was aimed at barring Confederates from federal office who engaged in insurrectionist behavior or rebellion. Now, remember, the case was spearheaded by a left-wing group called Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. That's great. Now, the Trump legal team will need to move fast and appeal this to the Supreme Court of the United States. The decision of the Colorado Supreme Court is stayed or delayed until January 4th, which is a key deadline in being able to qualify for the ballot. Here to react, Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and law professor at GW University. Jonathan, to think that 4 unelected state court judges could conceivably end up determining the presidential election is something I think most Americans are just shaking their head tonight, saying this can't be the United States.
No, it is a strikingly anti-democratic holding, in my view. The court literally faced a series of interpretive barriers to get to where it ended up. It adopted the most sweeping, broadest possible interpretation to get over every one of those hurdles. So throughout this opinion, it had to adopt interpretations that could encompass a wide array of statements. You know, they used what's called true threat precedent to show that you can view what Trump said as encouraging an insurrection by looking at stuff that he said at other times. And that, of course, allowed them to reach this conclusion. In my view, the court is dead wrong. This is the first major win for these challengers. They've gone to a number of blue states. This is one of the bluest state Supreme Courts you can get to. Even with that, it's split. I think the opinion is really chilling, and I think that the Supreme Court will make fast work of this theory. I hope it does. But I think this court, did great damage to its own integrity with this opinion.
And there have been other rulings in other state Supreme Courts, correct? Or federal courts that have come to the opposite conclusion here. So this is an outlier, which, again, because of what's at stake, it's going to have to be expedited to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, when you read this opinion, the one thing that keeps on recurring in your mind is, where's the limiting principle here? What would not satisfy this test? And each one of these barriers, the court could have adopted a fairly moderate or more narrow approach, but it didn't. And so on every one of these issues, it really took out all the fail-safes and went to the broadest possible meaning. Well, that means that states could engage in a tit-for-tat type of series of decisions. You know, you could have red states blocking Biden on some ballots and blue states blocking Trump. And the way this is viewed by the public is really quite horrific. You know, they view President Biden on the ropes, and the ref just called the match.
Well, just so everyone understands this tonight, essentially, the state Supreme Court of Colorado concluded that the former president is guilty of a federal crime that he's never been charged with, which is insurrection or rebellion, for which he could have been impeached as president, but he has not been charged with that. That's never been adjudicated. So with that, could Republicans, to your point, say, well, by undermining U.S. sovereignty, by leaving the border open, President Biden is trying to undermine the U.S. Constitution. It's tantamount to an insurrection. It's a broad view. But he's going to have to be taken off the ballot of, name your red state.
Well, this court just handed partisans on both sides the ultimate tool to try to shortcut elections. And it's very, very dangerous. I mean, this country is a powder keg, and this court is just throwing matches at it. And I think that it's a real mistake, but I think that they're wrong on the law. January 6th was many things, most of it not good. In my view, it was not an insurrection. It was a riot. That doesn't mean that the people responsible for that day shouldn't be held accountable. But to call this an insurrection for the purposes of disqualification would create a slippery slope for every state in the union. This is a time when we actually need democracy. We need to allow the voters to vote. We need to hear their decision. And the court here just said,
all praises and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Ha Rakah Quadash. Double honors to our apostle elders, which rule great millstone well, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure into the end. Shalom wa abba babal. So as you heard, Colorado Supreme Court votes to remove Trump from the ballot of the 2024 election. All right, so right when I heard this, I was at slavery, and I did some recon, and I was asking, the people just in my job what they thought about it. And the response that I got was, America's gonna die. All right, when I asked them about, Trump being removed from the ballot, the first thing was America's gonna die, and it's time to move away and go to a different country. All right, so we're in a time that is very perilous and dangerous because, like the man said, that's reporting in the middle, he said America is a powder keg. Let's get what that means. It says in the definition of the idiom of sitting on a powder keg, it says we will examine the meaning of the idiom sitting on a powder keg, where it came from, and some examples of its use in sentences. The expression, and that's what I'm meaning, the expression that man used was sitting on a powder keg. America is sitting on a powder keg, and this could set it off. Set what off is he talking about? It says the expression sitting on a powder keg means that one is in a situation that may explode into violence, that one is in a dangerous situation that may deteriorate into chaos at any minute. At any minute. Alright? And at any hour, pretty much the Lord's going to bring plague and famine on America. Alright, this is Revelation 18, verse 8. Alright? And this is talking about America. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. And what you see there at the end of famine is called a semicolon. So it says the use of the semicolon, it says use a semicolon to join two related independent clauses in place of a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Alright? It says right here, the connection between the two independent clauses is clear without coordinating conjunction. Alright? So here is that semicolon. Alright, so it's going to make another point. And she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord Yahweh, and he's going to send his son Yahushai, who judgeth her. Alright? So in 1 hour, plagues, death, mourning, famine shall come upon America. And then she shall be utterly burned with fire after they make the implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling. But they got to bring forth chaos to bring forth their new world order, which their order is that everyone be implanted with a microchip. Alright? And that's what the setup is. But they need people to start killing each other and start to go against each other in violence, so that they could bring that implantable microchip and make it mandatory easily. You know, deceiving the people, using chaos as a smoke screen for their devilish plan. All right, and who's the they? The elite of the so-called white race, which the Edomites, the so-called Caucasians, they're the devil the Bible speaks of. All right. And the Lord's going to punish him for his wickedness. He's going to receive the reward of his hands. And his kingdom, America, is going to be destroyed with nuclear fire. And him and his sons and his wives and his daughters are going to be put in slavery for 1,000 years under the Israelites, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which also the other nations are going to be enslaved under us for 1,000 years. But after that 1,000 years, the Edomites, they're not going to be allowed to be free. They're going to be destroyed in slavery and actually made extinct, because they're nothing good. There's nothing good with the Edomite. They're a destroyer. They're a weapon of mass destruction. And the Lord's done with them after they marks everyone with that implantable microchip, except for the hopeful elect that have been sighing and crying and prophesying in these days. All praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Ha Rekakadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule great millstone wow. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure into the end. Shalom. Wa Abba Ba.
The Great Fire of 64 AD spells disaster for the ancient city of Rome. Ancient writers describe how shadowy figures throw burning torches into undamaged buildings. Are these Nero's men? Or is this ancient propaganda designed to discredit the emperor? There are still many unanswered questions. Why do new fires spring up in different places across the city in an unnatural pattern? Could the answer finally exonerate Nero or prove his guilt?
If Donald Trump is reelected, all the progress we have made will be in jeopardy. At its most basic, this election is about preserving our democracy. During this president's term, the unthinkable has become normal. He has tried to prevent people from voting, undermine the U.S. Postal Service, deployed the military and federal agents against peaceful protesters, threatened to delay the election, and suggested that he will not leave office if he loses. This is not normal, and we must never treat it like it is. Under this administration, authoritarianism has taken root in our country. I and my family, and many of yours, know the insidious way authoritarianism destroys democracy, decency, and humanity. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Trump golfs. His actions fanned this pandemic, resulting in over 170,000 deaths and a nation still unprepared to protect its people. My friends, I say to you, to everyone who supported other candidates in the primary, and to those who may have voted for Donald Trump in the last election, the future of our democracy is at stake. The future of our economy is at stake. The future of our planet is at stake.
By the way. And, of course, during that time, it's when Donald Trump made his pledge that he wants to be dictator for just one day. This past weekend, of course, Donald Trump reiterated that claim in a speech at the New York Young Republicans Gala, where he said, I want to be dictator just for one day. So now that we've had some time, now that the dust has settled on that, the question is, what do Donald Trump's supporters think of him saying he's going to be a dictator, right? We're going to get rid of our republic, we're going to get rid of our representative democracy, and it's going to be a dictatorship. And let's be honest, anybody who's saying, oh, just one day, you're lying to yourself. Trump was testing the waters. And it turns out, the waters are pretty damn warm. Here is what Trump supporters have to say about his claims to be a dictator. One of them told the Washington Post this week, quote, I love it. My kids call me a dictator. I thought my parents were dictators. He said he was only going to do it for a day. Like, if you had a home that was in disrepair and your parents came in and they were firm and they wanted to get it done, and when you got done, you had this beautiful home, how could you be mad? That actually sounds like a pretty traumatizing childhood. You have issues that you need to work out with a therapist. Please, for the love of God, don't pass that on to your kids, although from your statement, sounds like you already did. But she started off again by saying, I love it. Hey, Trump says he wants to be a dictator. What do you think about that? I love it. Another Trump supporter said, I don't think he meant what everybody's saying, being a dictatorship. And actually, right now under Biden, that's probably what we got, because he does what he wants to do, and he's not really listening to the voters. I also love how you didn't back that up with literally any evidence at all, because there's no evidence. Like, Biden does what he wants. Like what? Like what? Give me an example. My inbox is open if you ever want to send me one. Then you had Republicans on Twitter, because I'm not going to call it by that letter. Gavin Mario Wax, leader of the New York Young Republican Club, said, quote, I want to go on record and say I am fully supportive of President Trump becoming dictator for one day, so long as he works with the New York Young Republican Club on getting the best staging and optics. This is art. It's art. Getting rid of our whole system of government, this is art. Reed Cooper, 19 years old, a self-described #1 fan of Trump, wrote on social media, I want to go on record and say I am fully supportive of President Trump becoming dictator for a lot more than one day. Told you. I told you the other day. The one-day thing is going to grow. It's going to grow to 1 week. It's going to grow to 1 month, 1 year, and his supporters are going to love it all the way. And now, even though Trump hasn't progressed it to more than 1 day, his supporters are already like, let's do more than a day. They love it. Another one. I can't wait for the next Donald Trump dictator administration. Who agrees? Another one. Democrat leftards are going to be playing this clip from Hannity of Trump until Election Day. Trump said he'll be a dictator for 1 day to close the border and drill, baby, drill. I can't wait. I love it. I can't wait. I want it more than a day. And then, to make things even worse, our good friend David Pakman posted this message that he got from somebody who, hates his show. Let me read you this. Again, David Pakman shared this on social media on Wednesday. This person wrote to David Pakman and said, when the time comes, you will fall in line and stand before our glorious new king of America, Donald J. Trump. Trump 2024, Trump 2028, Trump 2032, Trump 2036, Trump 2040, one nation under Trump. You will profess love on your channel for our king, or we will shut you down.